Good morning, everyone. At the outset, I thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this conference. I'm working at Rural Medical College, Loni since last 30 years. I'm proud alumni of Government Medical College, Aurangabad, who maybe I went into teaching because of the teachings which I got at GMC Nagpur. I am talking on the subject of PPH emergency care using a bundle approach. Madam has already introduced the topic. Now this is some new concept. The components are already been enumerated and highlighted by Madam, but I want to highlight the concept of this particular PPH bundle. The aim of this particular session is to learn about the clinical components of postpartum hemorrhage management, but at the same time, there is something called as non-clinical components in the management of postpartum hemorrhage, which are often overlooked. A lot of things are required at the point of time when the PPH occurs, and we are all trained and technically sound in clinical components, but what are non-clinical components if we do not give attention or we are not prepared with the non-clinical components which are also required and which have equal say in outcome of the patient, we are likely to miss the bus. So I would like to simply highlight on some of those non-technical components also. I won't go into details. So this is an important quality PPH management care or emergency care requires. One, of course, in the center is the clinical components about PPH care, but at the same time, by the side, there are certain components which are highlighted by the World Health Organization, that is facility readiness. We have to be really ready for the occurrence of PPH and management of PPH. There is network integration is required from different facilities, and of course, even at the point of care, we need to have a teamwork and good communication between team members and amongst the team members. So these are the non-technical components, and of course we are working on respectful maternity care, and whatever quality of care we want to improve, the data of these cases can be analyzed for better further improvement. Now I want you to look at this particular card, and which Madam has already highlighted on the components of this PPH bundle. I will let you know what is this PPH bundle concept subsequently. But I want you to see first that whenever there is a PPH emergency, we conduct AMTSL, we call for help. There are 4 components of first response bundle that includes uterine massage, intravenous fluids, uterotonics, and tranexamic acid. They are grouped together in a first response bundle. They have to be done all together irrespective of the type of PPH. And they should be done as early as possible whenever PPH occurs. In addition, there are 3 supportive measures which you all know that we carry out, and they are: 1, if there is any trauma, we examine patient for trauma, rule out trauma, we do catheterization of the patient, and of course we confirm that the uterine cavity is empty. So first response bundle comprises of 4 components which are in the first row, and supportive care is put into the second row. Now even after doing these 3 and 4 plus 3, if patient continues to bleed, then we call it as a refractory PPH. PPH that has not responded to our initial management is a refractory PPH. Now we all know, we have all faced this situation, and the condition is becoming little serious. We have to be quick and act fast. So there are certain management principles of this refractory PPH, and in this, first they have said that we must understand the principles of compression either of the uterus through bimanual compression or maybe aortic compression, perabdominal aortic compression, so that we stop the blood supply to the uterus. Second is, of course, these days we talk about the uterine balloon tamponade, which I will be, maybe time permits, I will demonstrate you. And third is another new modality of conservative management of PPH, that is non-pneumatic anti-shock garment. We call it as NASG. Now this NASG also has a big role to play in control of shock or preventing shock. In addition, with these 3 measures of the refractory PPH management, we have 3 more things to look into. One of them, of course, is blood transfusion. we must timely think about the transport of the patient, and of course, lastly, there is if the medical management fails, there is a issue of surgical intervention. You please remember that whenever we are carrying out refractory PPH interventions, whatever interventions we have initiated in the primary or in the first response bundle must continue, and that we continue. So, massage should continue, IV fluid should continue, oxytocin should continue. Second dose of tranexamic acid, 1000 milligram initially is to be given, and if she doesn't respond to that or PPH continues, then we have to give another dose of 1000 milligrams following after half an hour of initial dose. So these are the overall components of PPH emergency care bundle, and I will be going into little details as time permits. So look at these particular components, and when we carry out this particular management, we have to see that we should not wait for the shock to appear. Immediately, one after another, we should go on continuing with these interventions so that shock does not appear. And even for NASG and UBT, we need not wait for the shock to appear. I want to highlight here that although we have put these interventions as initial interventions, that is first response bundle and refractory PPH bundle, if at all we get a patient of severe bleeding, and means, in other words, we can directly go into second refractory PPH bundle if patient is profusely bleeding, and if we feel that the bimanual compression is required in that particular case. It is not that we should systematically or in a sequential manner, a clinician should decide which type of intervention is to be done at what time. But in order to bring them into group, these interventions are put into first response bundle and refractory response bundle. And 4 plus 3 are the responses, and supportive management initially 3 and subsequently 3. So ultimately, we come to know that our patient is coming out of the PPH. Now, for PPH to occur, there are many causes which have been already highlighted by the previous speakers, and we define PPH as any amount of bleeding which is more in quantity, or which is the rate at which she is bleeding and which is producing deterioration in the general condition of the patient or maybe shock. So that we call it as postpartum hemorrhage. Quantitatively, we call it as 500 ml. And of course, then these are the 4 factors which again I will like to say, that tone, trauma, tissue and thrombin. There are interventions like active management of third stage of labor for the prevention of postpartum hemorrhage in the sequential manner, oxytocin, then control contraction and uterine massage as prescribed in our textbooks. That holds true even today. Prophylactic uterotonic medications, which have already been enumerated in the past or the previous speaker, oxytocin, maybe misoprostol, or these days Mithirgin is not being used, or it is been propagated that it's a contraindicated or sort of a banned drug. Let me tell you that it's not a banned drug. It may not be a first choice of drug. We all senior obstetricians have used Mithirgin or methyl argometrin for years together, 20, 30, 40 years. We have hardly seen, whatever maybe the few incidences of these complications arising out of Mithirgin, we haven't faced any of them. But textbook and the research, whatever says, we have to approve that. But it is not a banned drug, and whenever other drugs fail, I have seen personally that when other drugs fail, when we use Mithirgin, and immediately acts, and so as far as the potency is concerned, many of us do not have any doubt about the efficacy of Mithirgin, and it should be used. May not be a first drug of choice, but maybe a third or fourth drug of choice, but do not ban this drug and keep it for emergency use at your facility. Controlled contraction, all the details have already been given in the topic of your inversion of uterus and uterine massage. Many times this is ignored, maybe in a busy facility, one after another patients are coming, but of course if we are doing it, we are definitely detect the atonicity of the uterus postpartum as early as possible so that we can attend that particular patient. Routine postpartum care for hemorrhage, of course, we look for the trauma, we catheterize the bladder, and early initiation of breastfeeding does have a role in control of PPH. So that is another area. Many times babies are separated, and this, if we really practice that baby crawl, immediately oxytocin gets released, and there is endogenous role of oxytocin, we all know, but that is not been practiced. That is what I want to highlight. There are many things which we know, but we are not practicing them, and this is what is another Laksh. In the Laksh also, a lot of importance is given on early initiation of breastfeeding. Whether a small level facility or a big level facility, early initiation of breastfeeding has definite advantages over whatever delay takes place in a routine manner. First response bundle, 4 interventions. Uterine massage immediately to contract the uterus and express the clots if there are any. Then IV fluids, which have already been highlighted. Uterotonics medication, tranexamic acid. This is a new drug. Many places it is not been used, but it is recommended, and WHO has approved tranexamic use as a routine drug for management of PPH. Do follow that. Supportive measures are check for tears, empty the bladder, empty the uterus. If bleeding continues, refractory PPH interventions, compression, and please, there are good videos even on the aortic compression, small 2-3 minutes clips. Please see that. Many of us do not know and do not practice that. That is another. I have myself faced that in the operation theatre during emergency cesarean section. Suddenly there is an adherent placenta and patient starts pouring. Unbooked patient coming to tertiary care hospital. And if we are not mentally prepared to do this aortic compression, again we are likely to lose the patient with torrential bleeding. Please see that. This simple maneuver of aortic compression, how the femoral artery pulsation disappear after that, that proves the efficacy of this particular maneuver, and this is one. It should immediately be used whenever there is severe bleeding, whatever may be the cause, and that is not any contraindication or any complication arising out of this. Bimanual compression we are doing and we are aware, but we are not doing aortic compression because we have not read about it, or please see some of the videos which are available. Then abdominal aortic compression, all the physiology we know, see the femoral pulsations. And these two things, uterine balloon tamponade and the non-pneumatic anti-shock garment, maybe if time permits, I will have a demonstration of this NASG, which is available. This is Amravati Medical College and many 10 more medical colleges. We have one PPH project with the at Harvard University in Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. And we have learned certain things through this project. This slide and this presentation is also we have received through that project, which I am presenting today. So, refractory PPH interventions, supportive measures are blood transfusion, timely blood transfusion, transfer to a higher level of care. Still, we are getting patients very late in irreversible shock, and we are losing some of the patients. Surgery does have a big role to play even today when patient reports in very late condition. But our aim is to refer the patients in timely manner. So whatever intervention, medical and non-surgical measures are there, we can intervene and save the life of these women. Many times even after the surgery is performed in late and irreversible shock, we are unable to save these patients. So timely referral is extremely important. One more important thing which I have missed, there is even textbook today says that push 1 liter, 2 liters of fluid in the case of PPH in order to stabilize the patient. But the recent concept is do not push that much of fluid. That causes hemodilution or dilutional DIC due to severe dilution of the clotting factors which are available at that point of time. They say that give only 300 ml fluid, meanwhile arrange for FFP's blood, and if bleeding continues even that, give more of oxytocin. Do not push 1, 1.5 and 2 liters of fluid. We are losing mothers because of severe excessive intravenous fluid transfusion, patient going into pulmonary edema and going into DIC. So this is what is the one of the message I wanted to give, and with this I end my talk. Thank you very much.